What's going on, guys? Archaic Gaming here with something a little bit different today. Most everyone has those games that they hold near and dear to their hearts, the games that mark milestones in their gaming experience. When making this video, I tried to make a list of my 10 most influential games that marked important points in my gaming lifetime, and I found that 10 just wasn't enough, and I actually wound up with 13 different games that I would consider important to my gaming experience. Keep in mind that this list is not exhaustive and is not my end-all list of all-time favorite games. So without further ado, here's the list of games that I hold dear to my heart. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. I hope you enjoy, and I'll talk to you next time. Kicking off my list, I have Pokemon Red. Now, this was actually the very first game that I ever played. A friend of mine had it on the Game Boy Color, and they let me play for a while, and instantly I was hooked. I got hooked on the Pokemon capturing aspect of it, the battling aspect, and the quest to try and become the Pokemon League champion. Now, mechanically, this game does not hold up to newer releases of the series, but for me, it's always going to hold a place in my heart for being my very first ever video game, and being the one to set me on this long journey with video games, and even up to the point of me creating a YouTube channel just about video games. While Pokemon Red holds the distinction of being the very first game I ever played, the Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy Color was actually the first game that I ever owned. Released during the middle of the Game Boy Color's life cycle, it took advantage of the 56 colors available to the Game Boy Color through its color palette, and did an excellent job of porting the trading card game into a video game for traveling. Though it never went beyond 2 games as a series, and only one of those was actually released here stateside, this game is always going to be treasured by me for being able to take the fun of the trading card game and putting it out in a form that I could take with me wherever and play whenever. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance actually holds the distinction of being the first game that I ever really took the time to research before getting. I saw this game while looking through the long gone but never really forgotten Nintendo Power magazine. I was intrigued by its troop management style and the judge and law system that would actually restrict what you could do in battle. After reading anything I could get my hands on about the game, I went out and got it and was not disappointed. I fell in love with the characters, the story, the gameplay, and I've always kept a copy of this game on hand. And my first adventure in the world of Final Fantasy was one that I'll never forget. When I got my first ever PS2 for Christmas, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater was one of the games that I got with it. I'd never played anything like it before, and it has since set all of my expectations for what a game can do and what a game should do. This loving homage to spy thrillers and espionage action is one of Hideo Kojima's finest works. The gameplay is excellent, and the story had me on the edge of my seat all the way up until its bittersweet conclusion. This game will always be my favorite just for the fact that it showed me what possibilities there were as far as what a game could really do. I could sit here all night and gush about the accolades that this game has received, the way it changed the landscape of gaming, and the countless controversies that surrounded it. But all that has been said before. What I can say about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is that I've probably logged the most hours in it of any video game I have ever played or owned. The open world of San Andreas is massive, and even outside of the main storyline, there's tons to do that even today you could boot this game up and lose countless hours to it. Video games have evolved so much beyond arcade cabinets and high-score contests. They are now what you could consider a true art form, and a surprisingly powerful tool for telling a story and conveying a message. Red Dead posed a couple of questions. Is revenge worth it, and is redemption possible for those who are possibly beyond saving? It was also distinct in that it is one of the first games I played where there's not really a truly happy ending. To this point, most of the games I had played, with the exception of, say, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the protagonist had actually came out on top. The game had ended with more or less a happy ending. Even though your main character dies, you're still given one final shot at redemption with a bonus mission at the end, but even that still kind of leaves you feeling hollow. just by the sheer amount of questions that it posed, the beautiful landscape, and the countless missions that it has to offer, Red Dead Redemption is always going to be the crowning jewel of the Western-style video game, at least until Red Dead Redemption 2 comes out. The first ever home console that I had the pleasure of owning was the Nintendo 64, and the first game that I got for it was Banjo Kazooie. I'd played Super Mario Bros. And other platformers, but this one always sticks out in my mind, along with another platformer that I will be mentioning shortly. This game is a treat to look at and a treat to play. With its re-release on Xbox Live, I've spent countless hours fighting through Grunty's castle with our favorite bear and bird tag team. With creative levels and an excellent soundtrack courtesy of Grant Kirkhope, this game is a must for anyone who loves platformers and quirky offbeat humor. The other platformer residing on my list is Psychonauts, the brainchild of Tim Schafer, and Tim Schafer's mark is all over this game. With strange, funny, and just outright insane characters, an art style all its own, and an amazing story, this game is a treat for the first or the 10th time that you play through it. Like Banjo Kazooie, this game was re-released on the Xbox Live Store, and I still find myself wandering back to Whispering Rock's Psychic Summer Camp, even 15 years after its initial release. Soul Blade is Konami's excellently done port of its arcade smash hit Soul Edge. Soul Blade was my first taste of the fighting game genre, and this game has a sizable cast of characters, each with their own unique backstory and their own specific good and bad endings through the story mode. And with the addition of the Con Super Session soundtrack, it is always a game worth revisiting, especially if you're interested in seeing the roots of the Soul Calibur series. Much like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the praise that has been heaped on this game goes without saying. Despite its ascension to near meme status thanks to the millions of ports of it to every piece of technology known to man, Skyrim is still an epic adventure nearly 10 years after its release. It was my first taste of an RPG of its scale and size, and I have lost countless hours and points off of class grades wandering around the wilds of Skyrim. It is a true epic, and I will always find time to create another save file and jump into the wilds of Skyrim once again. Like fellow Bethesda product Elderscrolls V Skyrim, Fallout 4 is a sprawling epic across a vast map filled with interesting characters and dangers galore. Up until its release, I'd actually been in a bit of a gaming rut. I just couldn't find any games that really excited me. But my saving grace came in the form of Fallout 4. I have spent hundreds of hours exploring the wastes of post-war Boston, fighting super mutants, raiders, and building vast settlements. Even with Fallout 76 on the horizon, I don't see me giving up my adventures through the Commonwealth anytime soon. First two entries into this list didn't key you in. I am a huge Pokemon fan. The secret to the success of both Game Freak and Pokemon as a whole lies with their ability to stay both true to their roots while taking risks in implementing new features and new aspects to their games. One of the biggest gambles taken recently by Game Freak was in Pokemon Moon, where the Gym Challenge was actually abandoned in favor of the Island Challenge. And this was a gamble that ultimately paid off for Game Freak. And its importance to me is that, again, I'm a huge fan of the series. I always have been and I always will be. And this goes to show me that they are still willing to take risks and try new things to keep the series alive and fresh. Rounding off my list is an interesting choice. The final game on my list is Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. Now, I'd never seen a visual novel style game up to this point in my life, but a chance purchase back in 2010 opened the door for me to one of the most interesting series I'd ever played. A game about lawyers practically sounds dead on arrival, but Capcom is able to pull this game off with great visuals, an all-star cast of characters, and cases that leave you on edge until the end. This was my starting point with the series, and since then I've played most every installment, and I can say that honestly Phoenix Wright as a series is now one of my favorite all-time game series.